Good morning. Good morning. RoadToRooter.com with your morning Bix news, Bix talks, Horn of Z's, you name it. We're going to call it something. Today it's all about Bitcoin. We have seen another fallback and rise of Bitcoin. Bitcoin will have problems for a long time, and it will fall down and get back up, and fall down and get back up. We've seen it over and over and over again since it was invented, which is natural. It's, everybody's kind of sketchy about it and says, I don't understand it. It's new. What happens if the power goes out? Things like that. If the power goes out, we're all pretty much dead if it goes out for good. If the internet goes down and then comes back up, Bitcoin's exactly the same as it was before. Bitcoin has been going through a little growing pains recently, which is great. I mean, Bitcoin is what Cliff calls anti-fragile. So every time it breaks and gets fixed, that problem doesn't come up again. And we've seen it time and time again. And we are back at 1200 and moving. And if you could see the chart here, I think some of the interesting points is right in here. June timeframe of 2015. You can see it started going up and then just fell down and got that little trend going like that. That was right after the Illuminati, the Bitcoin Illuminati met at Richard Branson's island. A bunch of rich people interested in Bitcoin. And I think there is an invisible hand behind Bitcoin to help rise the price on a smooth and steady basis instead of, going up to $1,000, $1,200 and crashing like the Mt. Gox debacle. Then they met again in July or in June of last year, and once again, the trend line really ramped up. So it was the first time was here, the second time was here, and then we're coming in. I don't know if they're meeting again, but definitely coming into that point where Bitcoin will probably rise at a steeper rate. And we've started to see it. Everybody thought it was going to run away with everything when the ETF was set up. I don't like the ETF. It's a Bitcoin derivative. It is not a Bitcoin. It's not on the blockchain. It would be a derivative. Yes, it would give more visibility and ability for people to invest, so to speak, in Bitcoin. But no, it is not Bitcoin. And it's a good thing that it isn't part of that system, because when the unbacked fiat system falls, the stock markets are going to fall with it. And because of the rehypothecation, because of the phony shares out there, because of the failure to delivers. And we don't want Bitcoin involved in all that. There's going to be some. The exchanges in Bitcoin, will show you here. This is what the exchange trading volume looks like. And as you could tell, it was pretty high at the time, but 2010 to 2014 timeframe, it looks like nothing compared to what went on the last 4 months of 2016. This was insane. These three exchanges were Huobi, OKCoin, and BTCC, all the Chinese exchanges. And what was going on is the same thing that was going on in every other exchange: rehypothecation. These are not Bitcoin transactions. When you put your money in Bitcoin into an exchange, you are handing over your wealth, your money, and your Bitcoin to these exchanges. These are not Bitcoin transactions that go on the blockchain. These are exchanges between participants in that exchange, in that pool of Bitcoin and cash. That's where you see these gigantic volumes. So the Chinese regulators, knowing that they want to go back onto, when the system crashes, they want to use Bitcoin to some extent as a transition or a full-time currency. So they went into the exchanges, the three exchanges, said, clean this up. We don't want to see it anymore. We want it gone. All this rehypothecation, all these phantom shares trading back and forth. You either clean it up, or we're going to come in and clean it up for you. And what happened was, if you look at the let's just say the 2-year chart, you'll see the bump and then the dive right here. That's when the Chinese government came in and said, we don't want rehypothecation. We don't want these fake shares, fake trades. Well, they're not fake trades. They're trades within the exchange. they're not on the blockchain. So it's kind of, they're Bitcoin derivatives that are being traded, and that's every exchange, Bitcoin exchange. So make sure after you buy your Bitcoin, take it out of the exchanges, take it out of the online wallets into your own private storage. Trezor has a electronic wallet, or a hard copy paper wallet is probably the best for people to understand. They don't have to worry about what's in their electronic blips. They can just see their paper, see their private address, their private address and their public address, and say, okay, here's my Bitcoin. I know how much I loaded it. I can check the balance of it on many different. I use blockchain.info to check the balances of paper wallets. Anyway, so yeah, that's what happened, and you can see the last 6 months. Look at that volume, just absolutely fell off the cliff. And you would think, oh my God, Bitcoin's dying. No, the Bitcoin price is actually back up. It's near its all-time high at 1,200, because these are more real. This is all fake within the exchange. It's not fake. These are trades going on within the exchange. One guy traded to another. A lot of manipulation goes in there. There's very little regulation when you're in those exchanges. So if you have Bitcoin in these exchanges or in an online wallet, pull it out and keep it in your own possession, just like silver. And then the 30-day gets more realistic around, these are still, I think, pretty high, 21,000 coins, 200,000 coins trading. That's pretty high. So, it's not, all the exchanges are doing the same thing. So it's still elevated because there's only, what are we at, I think it's like 16 million coins that have been created, a little over 16. Market cap of Bitcoin right now is about $19 billion. Anyway, really interesting stuff, but what I wanted to cover really this morning is this article. It's a great article, but it misses a couple things. We are entering a point where the financial system collapses, meaning that your bank account, your 401k, your checking account, savings account, the means of exchange will be destroyed with the coming banking collapse. They've been putting it off for too long. As you could tell, Donald Trump has completely shifted to the old way of doing business, and I think for a reason. The old way of doing business was the problem, and he wants to show the world that if we keep doing it the way we were doing it before, the old way of running our country, the old way of running our financial markets, then it's going to crash. And so I think that was the pivot that Trump just recently made in order to show humanity that it can't go on the way we've been doing it. We don't want Trump to fix it, half the stuff and then the crash to happen. He wants the crash to happen early, and then we can get on with things, living a new way, a different way. And it will include gold and silver and Bitcoin and other cryptos, possibly. Anyway, this article is called "Crypto Capital Markets to Save Mankind from New Global Financial Storm." And the author is Nick Ayton. Basically talks about how the cryptocurrencies are an alternative to the current monetary system, and he claims they will remain standing. I think there will be a big problem when the current financial system implodes, as far as how do you price Bitcoin if the exchanges are shut down. And the exchanges will be shut down most likely, because they rely on fiat money. They pay their employees in fiat money. They take fiat money in so people can buy Bitcoin. So it'll be difficult for them. Now, if it's a slow burn, like we're kind of seeing right now, you're going to see Bitcoin go through the roof, because people will be trying to get out of the system before it crashes. And that's what's really exciting coming up this summer. Let's just talk about the things he talks about. The current financial reserve banking system with that few trust is failing, creaking at the seams. Will crypto economics be the only thing left as the global economies collapse under massive debts hidden from sight behind the media's fake news? Great line. I wouldn't say cryptos will be the only thing left. I think the most important things will be silver and gold. But cryptos do have a place in that realm for day-to-day transactions. I think it will be very important. With Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrencies, there is no concept of debt. In crypto capital markets, bubbles stay in the glass. Cryptocurrencies are not debt-based. They're asset-based. So there's no debt behind them. There would have been if there was an ETF, a Bitcoin derivative. But no, right now it's looking good for the cryptos. Bubbles generally pop. It comes as no surprise that many predict another financial bubble that has been building since 2013. The West, Middle East, and Asia, nobody will be able to duck it. It's true. This is the big one. In 2008, it wasn't big enough. The people weren't ready. Hank Paulson went to Congress, asked for a $700 billion bailout. At first, Congress balked, if you remember. They said no. The stock market took a huge dive. And then they came back and gave Hank Paulson all the money he needed. And then the banks leveraged that up and didn't save the system. They prolonged the collapse. And now it's a problem with sovereign debt. The bailout now will be in the $20 to $30 trillion range that Steve Mnuchin's going to have to go to Congress to beg for. And no, there's going to be no bailout. That's pretty much assured. Half-truths. Everything is censored because if everyone found out, the banking system would collapse. They hide everything from us. Everything. The issues are real. They are not going away, and it's time for a new economic model. But here's the problem with a new economic model. You need deciders for that type of system to take place. That's the big problem. What Alan Greenspan talks about in his book was central banks are the deciders of who gets the wealth. And that's a huge problem. Because when systems fall down, there can't be any deciders. That's why everyone's saying, oh, we'll just implement the Nesra Act or the Iraqi dinar, or we have all these freedom funds hidden away. Those all take deciders, and when the old system falls apart and everybody loses everything, no one's going to trust the previous deciders. It's going to be very difficult what we use. It'll be more organic. The United States can go back to gold and silver as money. We have it on the books already. And I think the cryptocurrencies will be seen as a really good means of exchange when the banking system collapses. But it'll take some time, and it's not going to happen overnight, and there can't be deciders. It's got to be kind of organically grown. So we're talking weeks or months before anything gets up and running again, which is very scary for humanity, because that's the chaos that you should be really frightened of. All right, alternative. Crypto capital markets, a rapidly maturing and fast-growing alternative to fractional reserve banking and failing capital markets. That is true. A system that is rapidly being put in place by the libertarians, freethinkers, and crypto entrepreneurs so that everyone can still trade what value they have after the next collapse. That is not true. After the next collapse, everything will freeze. Cryptocurrencies will be a good alternative, but it can't be implemented. I mean, if there's no power and no electricity because the old system failed, most likely they'll try to start up a system that is completely similar to what they had before, and that'll fail too. So we're entering this time. It's going to be very, very, very troubling. No matter, and same with gold and silver. No one will have gold and silver to use as money. So, I believe the United States has been planning and prepping for this, and the Fed Boston documents show that. But how long will it take to implement? How long will it take people to understand that gold and silver are money and will start using them as money again? I mean, how long did it take you to figure out that gold and silver are money, or that the crypto currency thing is a viable alternative? It takes a long time to get your head around this stuff. And that's the problem. We won't have time. When the old fiat system crashes because the banks are massively over leveraged with derivatives and everything else, all those other problems, it's going to take humanity a while to figure this out. Just remember, it took us years to figure this all out, and we still haven't figured it all out. All right, financial panic. We are already seeing rising inflation. That's not true. Inflation is being controlled by the computer programs in the basement of the U.S. Treasury. Inflation as far as the things that the economists look for in inflation, gold, silver, oil, things like that. All prices are determined on the futures and options markets, and because they trade in many multiples of the underlying assets. So that's how they rig gold, silver, oil, the U.S. dollar. Everything is through computers and derivatives. Computers in the basement of the U.S. Treasury. There's a computer trading floor in the basement of the Treasury. kind of secret, but kind of not. They've talked about it a few times. But it was put there in the 70s and has been working to control the price of everything, because once you go off a gold standard, it usually dies. The currency usually, the new currency usually dies in 8 to 10 years. It's been going on for over 40 years. So yes, massive control had to be implemented, and it's starting to be seen around the world by smart people. But I'm just amazed that it's taken so long for especially the gold and silver people to wake up, to know that their investments are being rigged. But if you're watching this video, you know it's being rigged. You just aren't quite sure how. It's done with computers and derivatives, with trading programs that Alan Greenspan invented in the 60s and 70s. I've proven it time and time again. Go to roadtoruta.com or just check out my videos that I've posted. It explains who did it, how they did it, and why they're doing it. So yeah, rising inflation is completely under control with a click of a mouse. Storm approaching, I agree. When the next financial crisis hits, 2017, 2018, crypto wallet adoption will pass 500 million users in just months and rise to 1 to 2 billion by 2019. I completely agree with that. The world doesn't know anything about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Very few. Go walk down your street and ask your friends and neighbors, tell me about Bitcoin. Can you explain Bitcoin to me? They'll say, what are you talking about? Oh, that bubble thing that crashed? Mt. Gox. Some of them know Mt. Gox. Completely unknown to the vast majority of humanity. So that's how much money is going to flow into Bitcoin when they figure out, oh my God, it's a hell of a lot better. I might not understand it, but it's a hell of a lot better than going without anything when the banks crash. Safe haven. Brexit and the Trump effect was voted not for the ethos or the people involved. It was a vote by the people, for the people that have had enough. Where banks have overreached, governments sit back, and the 1% most wealthy play with people's lives and manipulate markets. Our future is crypto capital markets, for which we already have the infrastructure such as exchanges, coins, tokens, wallets, and markets. I agree with that. I think the Bitcoin blockchain technology can be implemented into markets to make them honest and freely traded, which would be an amazing thing, especially for silver. A freely traded silver market would just shock the majority of humanity with the prices that need to come out. I mean, silver is a coiled spring that's been coiled for 150 years. That's how coiled that spring is. So I would not be surprised to see silver way over $1,000, probably close to a 1-to-1 relationship with gold. And gold has been held back too. I see gold around $5,000 to $10,000, where I see silver at $5,000 to $10,000 as well. So silver at $1,850. Run down to your store today and in your coin shop and buy some physical silver. Lots of it. In 2008 was the start when people started to say no more. The Satoshi Nakamoto paper, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, was aimed at ensuring governments and bankers cannot destroy value, laying the foundation to a new capital markets 2.0, originally designed to cut out the banks. It may become the only thing we have that works. I agree with that. Not the only thing. I think gold and silver will be brought into the forefront, especially by the United States, and the rest of the world will follow. But the cryptos will be there. And as you know, or you should know, the U.S. government and the Chinese government are doing everything they can not to kill the cryptocurrency markets. The U.S. government is not passing any laws to axe cryptocurrencies out of the hands of the people, and the bankers would have loved it, but they're not doing it because the good guys have taken over, and Trump is part of that program, and very soon the system will end, the system will crash, and then you'll be just hugging yourself and hugging me for saying buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, buy other cryptos if you understand them, buy silver, buy gold, because the world is about to change, and you're going to be on the forefront of that change, and you're going to have to go with the flow and teach people why the old system crashed and what's a new system going to look like, what would be the best way to move forward for humanity. This is Bix Weir with your morning news. roadtoruda.com. Make sure you subscribe and go to the roadtoruda.com website. Put your email in, and you get a free book called Silver, Gold, Bitcoin, and God. All the things you love. Silver, gold, Bitcoin, and God. We'll talk to you later.